Hello and welcome to Dorico for Media Composers with me, composer and orchestrator Adam Kempshall. This is the fourth video in this series targeted at those who write or wish to write music for film, TV or video games and would like to know more about preparing notation for recording. However, all of the things that I will cover today will also be relevant to those wishing to learn more about using Dorico in general. If you enjoyed these videos, please do like and subscribe to the channel. In the last episode, we looked at quite a bit about templates and tokens. Today, we are going to look at condensing and filters. Again, a lot of this will end up in your project template, but as always, I want you to know why and how you are doing these things. Right, that's enough of my face. Let's go look at Dorico. Rather than returning to our project from last time, I have imported one of my pieces, City Lights, from my video game suite into our template, as we do need some notes today. For the pedants among you, I produced this in a different template originally, so some things won't be quite as well presented as we would like, but it is enough for our purposes today. So let's look at condensing first. Condensing is a Dorico feature that combines two or more individual parts into one stave, and is particularly useful for larger scores like this one. I'm starting here with condensing turned off, and as you can see, things are very squished. Now we could just reduce the stave size, but it is quite small already. So instead, we'll just turn on condensing. It's just here in the edit menu. There we go. I would actually recommend leaving it off while you are composing or orchestrating your piece, as once it's on, you cannot directly edit items in a condensed stave. So I can't actually click on these and do anything with them. You have to go into galley view to see the separate staves again, like so. There we go. All separated out, and we can actually do something with them. With condensing on, things mostly look okay except for the horns here. We want to have two horns on a stave, not all four on one stave. To change this, we once again return to layout options, players, and down here we have condensing. Now just to check our settings, we want to be on, we want our section players excluded, and we want to allow instrument changes on condensed staves. So to sort out our horns, we actually want to exclude them from condensing, and then we're going to create a custom condensing group with horn 1 and horn 2, and then another one with horn 3 and horn 4. And if we now click apply, you will see it's separated out our horn parts as we would wish. Condensing can be a bit fiddly in places. If dynamics, articulations, or other text don't quite match in both parts, you get items doubled up, and instrument changes can cause staves to uncondense. So if we go to page 5 here, you will see our flutes are not condensed. I think a lot of these condensing change markings are forcing the horns together because they didn't for some reason. Flute 1 changes to piccolo in bar 19 here, although the piccolo part doesn't actually start till bar 24. So to sort this, we need to go back to layout options, players, instrument changes. We're going to change the instrument transition position to before the first note of the new instrument. We only want to do this in the score because in the part, we want to make sure our flute player has plenty of time to know that they are going to change to piccolo. If I apply that, you'll notice doing anything with condensing takes a little bit of time, but you now see our flute part is combined and it then separates out on the next page because we do have a piccolo starting. As I said, there are lots of condensing change signposts in this file because it was written in Dorico 5, and condensing is improved somewhat in Dorico 6. I probably don't need all of them now. However, if we look on page 17, okay, I discovered we definitely do need this one. If I delete it, you'll see our horns suddenly have two stems, and we don't want that. And so all I'm doing with that one is I'm just forcing a manual condensing change on both the horn parts, which looks like this. And that just makes sure they're always on the same stems. I don't know why it sometimes does that. sometimes it doesn't. But it's doing a really nice job of the woodwind here. You will just notice I've hidden some of the dynamics for clarity. Okay, I don't need all these frame breaks either because my casting off is set correctly, but we still have all these things. But yeah, it's just doing a nice job of the woodwind that are doing something quite complicated there. One quick tip to make sure condensing works first time: if instruments have the same material, make sure it was copy and pasted rather than entered manually. Let's just find an example here. So here our two horn parts have the same stuff. Make sure you've just copied and pasted that. You'll probably do that anyway. But then it is exactly the same material, and condensing regards it as exactly the same. Setting up a shortcut for copy to stave above and copy to stave below could also help, and entering dynamics so that they are linked. So for example, if I just get rid of that horn part for now, if I wanted to make sure they were matching, I have Shift Alt and D as copy to the stave below, and then it does that. So with regards to dynamics, we have MF crescendo fortissimo here in our horn parts, and actually I'll just delete it just to demonstrate how I do that. I'd select the whole thing and then just do the dynamic once, drag that over there so it's where we want it, and then that means these are all linked, and when it comes to condensing, it's only going to show them once. There are loads of settings for condensing, and some of them are just whatever your taste is. If you go to notation options and then condensing, we can just go through these. These are how mine are set and what I like. I like single stem unison, so we get an A2 sign rather than everything being on stems. I want that to happen as soon as possible, even if it's in the middle of a phrase. I want unlimited pitch crossing. A bit bigger. Unlimited pitch crossing. Just so it condenses as much as we possibly want. I'm not sure that really comes in too often, but we don't want it if we did. The same with trills. I think normally my trills are going to have identical intervals, but my principle is I'd rather it condensed than didn't. We allow amalgamation of notes and chords, although I would say I generally would not put more than 2 instruments on one stave if it can be avoided, because it does start to get messy. Slurs, we want to prevent amalgamation because I don't know if it's still there in Dorico 6, but certainly in Dorico 5, it would end up not showing slurs where you actually did want them. Amalgamate our playing techniques, any lines we have, and I like this one as well: hide rests and label the active player. Otherwise we just get all these random rests floating around all over the place. That just make it look more complicated. It's just more stuff on the page that we don't need. The same here, when hiding rests for inactive players, we want to hide the rests at any position. Again, this one's a bit less relevant because I wouldn't have more than 2 players on one stave. If I did, then I'd want them to pair with the active player rather than doing like this. Just try and keep it as clear as possible. Filters are somewhat related to this and is relevant in galley view. In galley view, every single instrument in the whole work is shown. And you can see we've got lots and lots of percussion stuff here. I'm just going to change a setting on the percussion options. As you can see, we've got lots going on, and yeah, then we've got this going on the percussion. Now, the reason is this is because City Lights is from a 5-movement work, and I used many different percussion instruments, most of which aren't in this movement. The same goes for many of the woodwind doubles. So if I just select the instruments in this piece, this takes a little bit of time. I know we've got them. I'm just control clicking. I know I've got galley. I don't think I've got clarinet. I don't think it doesn't really matter for the purposes of this demonstration. I never got all our brass. I know we've got our timpani. It doesn't really matter what you select, just select stuff on all the staves you want. I think it's those ones. Don't think it's that one. It's these ones with these labels on. We'll talk about that in the next video. And that one. Okay, and then I can just press this plus up here, which will create a new instrument filter from the selection. And now we are just looking at the stuff that we have in this piece. Okay, and if we go into here, we can give it a useful name like City Lights. Okay, from here you can just click the add presets from instrument families and it will populate a whole bunch of things that might not be useful. I think in this case though, with this filter on, if we want to create a woodwind filter, we can just select our woodwind, press plus, and now we have a woodwind filter, and we could label it something like woodwind city lights. Can't spell, there we go. Okay, and we can swap between them there and there. As you can see, that's slightly more manageable, or we can just turn it off if we really want to. This is very useful when working on large scores because it does keep things far more manageable. That's it for today. In the next episode, we will mainly be dealing with percussion because percussion often needs dealing with. I'm open to suggestions for future topics. Drop them or any questions in the comments. Thank you for watching, and please do like and subscribe for more.